welcome into DETV for a special sports update as we are joined by the entire, or I should say majority, of the 302 Sports crew here to break down the upcoming high school football season. We're also here to reveal the official 302 Sports rankings for classes 3A, 2A, and 1A. So a special football preview edition tonight here live on DETV. I'm joined, of course, by the experts from 302 Sports, Jason Winchell.
Hey, good to be here, Nick.
Mike Lang.
Where's the experts?
And joining us remotely from an undisclosed location in Middletown, Delaware, it is the one, the only Glenn Frazer. Glenn, how are we doing?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Looking forward to opening night on Thursday.
And as Glenn said, right around the corner. So we are here with the crew that knows the most about high school football here in the state of Delaware. We're going to break down these new rankings that are going to debut here on the show tonight, and then, of course, get you the upcoming stream schedule for some of the action that Glenn alluded to that will get started this upcoming Thursday for Week 0 action here in the state of Delaware. So a lot to get into, guys. Let's dive right in. Of course, the DIAA season is just a few days from getting underway. We are going to start by revealing the Class 3A rankings, your official 302 Sports rankings ahead of Week 0 and the first game action that we'll see here in Delaware. So you are going to see the rankings on your screen here shortly, and it starts and looks like this, your Class 3A, and it starts with the defending state champion, Salesianum, sitting atop the ranks at number 1, followed by the Middletown Cavaliers, of course, usually find themselves in the state championship game as well. Cape Penelope, and what a run they went on to close out the year last year. They come in at number 3. Sussex Central, very talented team, coming in at number 4 this year. Smyrna, a typical powerhouse, is, of course, very familiar with championships down there. They come in at number 5. Apo at number 6. Hodson, number 7. And then William Penn getting a vote and coming in at number 8. So, guys, let's talk about these rankings here for Class 3A. We debuted them. There we are, 302 Sports official rankings coming in. And let's just start at the top, guys, and let's talk about the defending state champions. Salesianum, Jason, Coach Deladon's first year last year, and it results in the school state title.
Yeah, you know, what a great season. Their only in-season loss was to Dover on the road early in the season. He had a fabulous defense last year, and it helps when you have B.J. Aline, one of the best running backs in the state last year and player of the year. And, a successful season. They had a bunch of seniors that they got to replace, but they're back again. I mean, I think Mike said there's, 26 seniors and 26 juniors
correct
on the roster to start. So he's got an experienced staff coming back, and they're going to be ready to go. But it doesn't get easy. They start with Episcopal Academy on Thursday. Then they go to Smyrna the following week, which will be on Delaware Live, which I'm looking forward to from that state quarterfinal game last year, 43-42 or something like that. It was a one-point game at the end there. And then Malvern Prep comes in after that, and then Dover. So it's a tough first 4-game stretch for the Sal's. And then they have Middletown later in the year, a game you can also catch on Delaware Live Sports. So, I mean, I just think it's a tough schedule, but I think they have the talent to, make a push to repeat.
Mike Lang, Sally's a team you know very well over the last few years. Have you been able to check them out or seen them at all here through training camp coming into the season?
I saw them early on, and I talked to Gene Deladon briefly at practice, and they have in the program about 180 players total between varsity, JV, and freshmen. So they are in position, and they don't want injuries, but if they have some depth or if they have to replace somebody, they have people to go to, and they're really stacked. Brady McBride back as the quarterback. He's a senior, and it's his job this year. He was platooning last year, but it's Brady's job, and he's got all kinds of talent around him. And if you see number 2 out there, that is not B.J. Aline. It's Odell Teal, who transferred into Salesianum, and Odell's looked really good in the preseason, and I think he's itching to get started with Salesianum. And they have, and as good as their offense is, I think their defense is even better. And it's under the coaching of Paul Warlow.
That's right.
Paul's a little bit crazy. I think it's 100 degrees out.
You got to be when you're a linebacker like
he
that,
is,
for
and
sure.
he always wears the hoodie. So I was out of practice. It was about 95 degrees out, and Paul had the hoodie on, and he was sweating just as much as the players. They really get into it. They have a dedicated staff and team, and they're going to be tough. But they do have a tough schedule, Jay. You mentioned the road games this year: Smyrna, Middletown. I believe Dover is in Dover.
No, it's at Abyssinia.
Dover's Abyssinia, but they do have Smyrna and Middletown on the road. They have the Episcopal and Malvern coming in. It's not going to be easy for them, but I think they'll be ready.
Yeah, you mentioned Odell Teal. That certainly will help. A fantastic two-way player going to be on both sides of the ball for Coach Deladon's squad this year. And now you look at 2, 3, 4 with Middletown, Cape Henlopen, Sussex Central, and then Smyrna at that 5 spot. Glenn, does anything stand out to you when looking at these debut rankings here on 302 Sports ahead of the season kicking off Thursday?
I think I pretty much had the rankings the same as we ended up with, our Super 7. One team I think the dark horse might be Appoquinimink. I hear they got some talent in, not only underclassmen that didn't play much last year. They're very good at the wide receiver position. Of course, Coach Brian Timpson, he's done a great job. They finally beat Middletown last year for the first time, and the year before that they beat Salesianum for the first time. But they had Noah Hoff returning, Francis Drummond, Dom Montabell, all very good wide receivers. And all they need is a running back to replace Run DMC. And I think they found one. We'll find out. Dylan Griffith, he'll be a stud in the backfield. He's been All-State a couple of years. So keep an eye on Appo as maybe a dark horse. Smyrna, the only thing that jumps out at me at Smyrna is, of course, the Marks kid will be the full-time quarterback, and he has some very good wide receivers. Who's going to run the football, and how good is Smyrna going to be along the O-line and the D-line? Because Sussex Central has almost everybody back on the line, and they have the 2 running backs back as well. So Sussex Central is going to be a typical Sussex Central team. They're going to pound and grind it out and work the clock.
Yeah, absolutely. Appo definitely some key transfers going there, as Glenn alluded to. Definitely a team to keep an eye on. Jason, any other teams there as you look at those rankings for Class 3A? Smyrna at 5, Appo 6, Hodson 7, and of course we talked a little bit about William Penn and some other schools as well.
Hodson had that surprise season last year, and they had record number of people come out this year. They were over 100.
Oh wow!
Over 100 kids come out. The only thing with them is, they don't have a home again this year. They'll be playing at Caravelle, their home game.
Construction over there.
Yeah, so luckily they were able to make the times at 11 o'clock. Most of their home games there at Caravelle, which is what they're used to at home. So that could play like a home field advantage. But it's gonna be interesting. They had the depth, and they proved last year when they were the 4th seed in that tournament, 3A tournament. They had a surprising year after a 1-9 the year before that. So Coach Collins has done a really great job over there at Hodson.
Mike, anything else stand out to you about those teams or the rest of the Super 7 or the 8 teams ranked here for Class 3A?
Yeah, I was the William Penn vote, so I just
there you go, right? Show some love to the Colonials.
I showed some love to the Colonials. I speaking of love, I love their quarterback JoJo Everett, who I think is a sophomore this year, and showed a lot last year. It started from day one as a freshman. We got a chance to stream the Caesar Rodney game. I saw them against St. Mark's. I may have seen another. I think I saw them against Cape. I saw him a couple of times, and he's he's just very good, and he's only a sophomore. There's some enthusiasm over there at William Penn. I don't know if the kids over there now are going to see it, but they have a new football or sports complex coming after the referendum passed this year. So I think things are looking up at William Penn in the Colonial School District, and I think they'll keep some of those players there that in the past may have gone somewhere else. And I think Delaware football is better when William Penn is a player. And last traditional public school above the canal to win a state championship, those William Penn Colonials. So why not them, right?
Why not William Penn again? Squeak it in there at the bottom half of the rankings. Again, another team to look out for there. Glenn, any closing words on Class 3A?
Just to chime in on what Mike was talking about, William Penn. We did their opening game last year with Caesar Rodney. A lot of team speed. Of course, I'm guessing that everybody is returned that was on the team last year. With the way the transfers are right now, it drives me nuts trying to figure out who's on what team. But they did show a lot of team speed. They had some breakaway touchdowns against Caesar Rodney. So, yeah, watch out for William Penn. They have some athletic talent.
And of course, Jason, you talked a little about District 2, maybe a 3-team race there with Cape Henlopen, Sussex Central, in Smyrna. Vikings lost a bunch on their team, including James there offensively.
Yeah, but they also have, Coach Frederick has done a nice job. They have a lot of kids coming back. But they had a great run last year in the postseason. They beat Smyrna, I believe, during the regular season. They had some success. I think they're going to be a team right there with Central and Smyrna, and those 3 teams are going to battle. Like Glenn said, Central's got a lot coming back and the 2 running backs, and they run that discipline offense that gets a lot of defenses frustrated by the end of that game.
Again, your 2017 state champs, I believe, in the Sussex Central Golden Knights. Dover lost a lot there as well, guys. A coaching change. Chip Knapp no longer there at Dover. And do you guys think anything about, maybe Dover can make a run, or CR and St. George's? What do you think about those 3 teams, if I had to ask?
Of those 3, I would say Dover would be in the best position. I just think they have the most returning talent. They did lose some of the graduation. They lost a significant player to a transfer. But I just think they're in a better position. I think CR is on the way up. I mean, it's just St. George's, I think, lost a few to the transfers as well, and it might be I think it might be more of a rebuilding year for St. George's, but never an easy place to play. So if you got to go down there, and I know St. Mark's is down there for their first game, so they want to be careful. That's one team we did not mention was St. Mark's, but it's going to be, I think, Dover. Those 3 you mentioned, I think Dover's got the best chance to make some noise because they're always tough.
Yeah, and again, got Coach Wilson, a great staff over there at St. George's, so of course look for them as well. And Glenn, how would you answer that question or go about answering?
Well, not only did Dover lose their head coach and Chip Knapp, who retired, they lost maybe their best offensive weapon in John Parker. He transferred up to Middletown. Super wide receiver, returning All-Stater, will help out the Cavaliers. Dover, one of the main things in their favor is they have possibly the best 2-way lineman in the state in Stevenson. Stevenson is all-state material again this year. It's going to be how quick can they get used to the new system with the new coaching staff. And they're going to be thrown right into the fire here Saturday night playing a good out-of-state team in Troy from Pennsylvania in the Pigskin Classic up at Abyssinia. Caesar Rodney, one other thing to mention, Sean Strickland, of course, is the head coach, but Dan Candeloro, who was a former Caesar Rodney head coach, is back on the sidelines there at Caesar Rodney. He'll be an assistant coach. And Rudy Simonetti, who is a former Dover High coach and was an assistant under Chip Knapp, is now helping out at Polytech, and that can only help the Panthers when we talk about them and the 1A class.
Well, there you have it, a quick little rundown and preview of Class 3A. Salesiana, of course, you're defending state champs. Of course, looking to defend that state title for Class 3A this upcoming year. Well, guys, let's jump over to 2A and take a look at the official 302 Sports Class 2A rankings that will appear on your screen here in about a second. Here you go, and it all starts with the defending state champs, the Carabel Buccaneers. 2 years ago, guys, an undefeated regular season, a tough loss to Friends in the state championship game, but they followed that up last year with a championship run. They bring home the title. They're the defending state champs. Archmere coming in at number 2. Wilmington Friends grabbing the 3rd spot. The Woodbridge Blue Raiders back in the top 5 at number 4. And then a team I like a lot here this year, Red Lion, coming in at number 5. At 6, 7, 8, it starts with Delaware Military Academy getting that 6th spot. Howard losing some talent there, but they still come in here at number 7. And then Laurel with some votes coming in at the 8th spot. Of course, just a few years removed from moving up a class, a 2-time state champions or back-to-back state champions in Class 1A a few years ago for Coach Jones' group. Well, guys, initial impressions here for 2A and how this ranking looks, Jason. What stands out to you? Carabel back on top.
Yeah, and I think that was the only one that they were unanimous number 1 throughout the board. They bring back a lot. They lost a lot, but they bring back a lot. Coach Reed's got a very, balanced team coming back. I like their schedule, and it's a tough schedule, but one that I think prepares them all season long. And I just think out of the gate, they're my favorites. But, all the other schools, Archmere lost a lot, especially in the backfield with Cole Fernese being gone and the quarterback. So we'll see how they do. Howard lost one of my favorite players, R.J. Matthews, to graduation. So how are they going to do? DMA lost a bunch. So I think it's Caravel right now it's theirs to lose, but I think everyone will be trying to knock them off.
Mike, what stands out to you there? You see those initial rankings being released, a team that you cover pretty closely. The Archmere Hawks up there grabbing that 2 spot coming into the season. Just your initial reaction from 302 Sports, your Super Sevens.
A lot of turnover at Archmere. They graduated quite a bit. They do have John Orsini coming in at quarterback. He did play a little bit last year, but it was he didn't play a whole lot at quarterback last year, but he'll be the guy this year. And he's going to be the workhorse is going to be Ryan Hagenberg in the backfield. I think he was pretty busy last year with Cole Fernese and a few others, but he's really going to be Hagenberg's going to be the number one guy. And one thing I did notice from Archmere is they have a big roster, about 35, 36 players on varsity, and they got some beef up front. So, a little bit bigger.
Starts in the trenches.
It does, and it's a little bit bigger than what we're used to seeing with Archmere. But Coach Belace does a great job up there. This is a team that they never have a subpar year. I mean, subpar for them, but not a subpar year. The worst they ever go is 5-5, and I think they're going to be a lot better than that this year. I think new faces, but I think they'll be okay. It's funny because you got to change a quarterback at Caravel and a change at Archmere, but the guy who is coming back is Ryan Tattersall at Friends, and we have them third. But they lost a lot too. They had McKenzie, who was kind of their everything offensive guy, along with Tattersall last year. So they got some adjustments to make at Friends. But again, a team that's never really down and out. So I think that top 3 that we have is going to be. I think we did a good job with our rankings there.
And Glenn, what stands out to you about these Class 2A rankings? I mean, we talked a little bit about the teams at the top, Caravel, Archmere. I know you've seen Caravel a few times, but what stands out to you about that?
Well, no surprise that Caravel was a unanimous pick by all of us to win and repeat in Class 2A. John Reed has a lot of talent coming back, including one of my favorite players in the state, maybe the toughest kid in the state, and that's Brock Rhodes. He plays all over the field. He just gets after it on both sides of the football. And really, I know we haven't played a game yet, but everybody else is just going to be fighting to get a spot in the state championship game. I think Caravel deserves the number 1 ranking that we gave them.
Yeah, another team I think, and somebody I highlighted there in the Class 2A Open a few moments ago, that's Red Lion, a team under Coach Ken Anderson. I think that's gotten better and better over the years. And it all starts with quarterback Evan Budinger, who again has himself gotten better, year after year. You always see the work he's putting in the offseason, going to camps, and I think they've been continuously getting better. Maybe this is the year that Red Lion breaks through and may be able to make a playoff run there over at Red Lion Christian. And we talked about Woodbridge, DMA, and Howard rounding out those first or other votes there in those rankings. Jason, what else stands out to you?
Yeah, you mentioned Red Lion. They have they didn't have many seniors last year. So as long as, again, I haven't had a chance to check their roster yet, but as long as a lot didn't transfer out, they have a lot coming back. And that's key when you have a lot of people coming back, especially on the offensive side of the ball. For them, it's going to be interesting because they're in with DMA and Caravel. They played Caravel week 10, and that District 1 title could be on that line that last week of the season. It's the last game of the regular season too. They play Saturday night at 7:00 at Red Lion, so I think that's a game to put on the calendars now. But also that day, Friends and Archmere meet earlier in the day at Friends. That's a good doubleheader right there because that could decide the District 2 title. So.
Again, Class 2A, one of our favorite classes, each and every year. The parity there, always so real. And again, Caravel returning a lot this year. But again, the rest of those rankings, pretty stout.
I think it's interesting that the teams that we normally mention some of the downstate teams, and I think they're going to be dangerous. We can't forget about teams like Woodbridge. We'll see how Laurel does in year 2 in Class 2A. And Lake Forest, who's always a tough team. Does one of those teams
here shortly?
Yeah, one of those teams. Are they going to step up and represent the old Henlopen South and go knocking on the door with the top 3 that we have? They want to say, hey, don't forget about us, So, as usual, there's teams to pick from that. Unfortunately, we can't put everybody in the top 3, right? So,
and again, Woodbridge, just a few years ago from being in that state championship game, an appearance with, at that time, I think only had 20-something guys on the roster.
Yeah, and they made the semifinals. They made the semifinals last year, losing to Archmere. Their running back, I think, is gone now, who had a fantastic year last year. I think they're always tough. And Laurel, this is their second year up there now. But they have a tough schedule. Like, they open with Sussex Central. Yeah. It's a bunch of 3A team. I believe they play CR, another 3A team. So they're going to pick up some bonus points early in the season. And then, the old Henny South kind of a schedule. And they got Woodbridge, Sussex Tech, Lake Forest, Milford.
They're at Caravel.
And they're at Caravel.
And they're at Delmar. And they have Sussex Tech. Is Sussex Tech in the 2A?
Yep.
Sometimes I lose track of these things.
It's kind of fresh in everybody's mind the last couple of years.
Can't keep track of it, Glenn.
And again, Red Lion, look out for my guy Corbin, 2-way player there. He's going to have a huge impact on both sides of the ball for Red Lion. But Glenn, again, going through those rankings, what else stands out to you there as we finish our talk on Class 2A?
Well, I'm glad Mike brought up Lake Forest because I think I should have put them in my Super 7. And we'll find out just how good Lake Forest is in a couple of nights. When we do that live stream at Odessa High School. Lake has a veteran coach in Freddie Johnson. They have a really good running back in Aiden Young. So looking forward to seeing them, and I think they can crack the Super 7 at some point during this season. Lake always has a lot of speed on their team. Laurel, conversely, they have a little bit of speed, but they're a tough ball club, and they usually have a really hard-nosed running back. But they have a very tough schedule, and what an opener to draw Sussex Central.
Yeah.
So, it's really all former Henlopen Conference teams in that District 3, and if you added Indian River and Seaford, you'd had the Henlopen South in its entirety.
All right, guys, before we move on, any other closing words here on Class 2A?
Like we say, it's always a fun class, and then everyone's going to be chasing Caravel.
There it is. Again, that team is so talented, and they're going to be ready to go, ready to defend that state championship. Again, the last 2 years almost unbeatable in the regular season, then only one loss to show for it there in a state championship. So as Jason mentioned, everybody looking up at Caravel, but who are they going to be looking up to in Class 1A this year? That's going to be the big question as we now debut the rankings here, your 302 Sports official Class 1A rankings ahead of Week 0. You'll see them on your screen. And it starts with, how about this, guys? Number 1, Indian River grabbing that top spot here in the Super 7s coming in. Tatnall, your defending state champs. They do lose Rayshawn Lamons, but they grabbed that 2 spot. They're the ones defending that trophy. Wilmington Charter, a very successful season last year for them. They climb here at the number 3 spot coming in on the preseason, followed by a team that Glenn mentioned, Polytech at 4. First State Military Academy in the rankings in the top 5 here to debut for Class 1A, followed by Brandywine at 6. Conrad, the Red Wolves, in at 7, and then Glasgow and St. Andrews each getting a vote coming in at number 8. So here we are, guys. Class 1A. Let's talk about it. Jason, what stands out to you here about these debut preseason rankings?
I can tell you that these were the most interesting rankings as far as, a lot of different schools up there. People had them in different places. I think the 1A is wide open this year. Indian River probably brings back the most, but Polytech, who had a great year last year, Brandywine, who had a great year last year. Can't forget about First State Military Academy and what they've accomplished. I think we always say 2A was I like 1A this year. I think this is the thing. Wilmington Charter, I know they lost a lot, but they have 70-some kids probably again, and they're always heading in the right direction. Coach Winnington runs a good program over there. I think they were the school that benefited the most from the 3 classes because they could never compete in the old system. But man, they are, because they have players out there, and it's going to be interesting and I think wide open.
Yeah, you said it, right? Maybe, you think back to a couple years ago, as you mentioned, Laurel, back when they were 1A, back-to-back state championships. St. E's was there every year, it seemed like. And now, could be wide open for some of these teams, Mike. How do you see Class 1A?
Well, I love when Indian River brings back Dylan Grice, the quarterback, big, solid player. Devon Handy is going to be back in the backfield. Jason, you mentioned First State. Mark Lawrence is their running back to keep an eye on, and he's a big dude. He did a lot of the damage himself last year, and maybe he'll have a little bit more meat in front of him to open some lanes up. But he did a pretty good job finding space by himself. I think with Brandywine, they lost quite a bit, but they were always competitive, and I think they just kind of fell off last year. The second half of the season, right after we had them on our show, was not very kind to them. That they can put together, 2 halves of football, they'll be right there. They'll be in the state tournament and making some noise up in Brandywine, and it's going to be fun. I think it's good. Tatnall lost a lot, Wilmington Charter lost a lot, so maybe it's time for Indian River to step up, or maybe when Polytech comes up. You never know. It's going to be fun.
Glenn, what stands out to you about Class 1A here in 24-25? Or 24, I should say.
I agree with you guys. I think the most competitive class this year is 1A, as to wide open for who's going to be in the state championship game. Indian River, we had them last year on a live stream in the semis when they lost to Tatnall, the eventual champs. Very competitive ball game. And as Mike said, they do have some talent returning there to help them out. Keep an eye downstate on Polytech. Head coach David Eilers has 22 seniors on the team. A lot of talent back from last year, a team that made the playoffs for the first time in school history, won their first ever playoff game, and then lost 10-0 in the the semifinals to Wilmington Charter. So they're hungry. They want to get back there. I think David Eilers has a very good program, and it can't hurt that former head coach Rudy Simonetti is helping him out on the sidelines. They have their quarterback back in Isaac Balsarak, and also brother Simon in the defensive backfield. A little bit returning on the line, but Polytech could be a sleeper there. I know we do have them ranked 4th, but we'll keep an eye out on them.
Yeah, we talked about it. Some new faces there in the rankings for Class 1A that maybe you haven't even seen the last couple of years here in the preseason. So great to see, again, kind of the evolution of some of these programs and to see them getting better and better. But in Class 1A, Jason, District 2 is going to be very competitive.
Yeah, I think, we just mentioned 2 of them, Indian River, Polytech, and you got First State Military Academy right up there. Conrad's in District 2. But they'll be doing a lot of traveling, but that's another team to watch for. I believe Brandywine's also in District 2.
This is their 2-year cycle for those 2 are the traveling teams, I believe.
Yeah, so they're loaded from top to bottom. I think and we can't forget about St. Andrews. They'll also receive the vote.
Yeah,
they're in District 2. So that District 2 from top to bottom, I think, is very competitive. I would watch out for it. That title could come. That district title could come down to the last week of the season.
A lot of unknowns across all the classes here coming in to the 2024 season. Again, it's going to be a unique season. We're seeing, so many different faces at new schools. That college kind of transfer portal world has kind of made its way into high school sports as well. So it's been such a different landscape, but it creates a lot of unknowns. It's going to make for a very interesting upcoming high school football season as well. Another team that we referenced here, guys, was the Tatnall. Coming off that state championship, they do lose a lot, so we'll see how they're able to rebound and obviously some other stuff going on as well and try to defend that state championship.
Yeah, you just never know with some of these schools who's going to be there till the doors open on the first day of school. So
it's a crazy world now.
It's a little, football's a little bit different. Usually these players, if you're going to move, usually you've moved before school starts, but not always. And so we'll see what happens with Tatnall. It was good to see Tatnall for the win their first title last year.
Yeah.
I mean, they were dominating last year with the Le Mans in particular, but players like Booth and a couple other guys.
Yeah.
You had Micah Stamper, and they were just. It's just not easy to keep that kind of domination going. It's a little bit easier in a school like Middletown where you have that kind of numbers.
Yeah.
It's harder to do it at a school like Tatnall. We'll see what happens. It's we've done games there, Nick.
That's right.
And I'll tell you one thing. It's always a good time to watch a game out of Tatnall.
It certainly is. We'll see if we can get back up there, up
And
into the top.
you and I
where,
maybe not be
doing that
squeezing
game
through
up at
that.
the
Yeah,
top there.
boothful.
But Glenn, any closing words or anything stand out to you here? Lastly, on Class 1A coming into the year.
Yeah, I forgot to mention Seaford. Seaford always has a lot of good team speed. They only had 4 home games last year. They flipped the script on that, so they will get 6 home games this year. It's always tough to make that ride for the teams farther north to go all the way down and play the Seaford Blue Jays. Always a very quick, fast ball club, and they made some noise a couple of years ago in the Class 1A playoffs. I think they took somebody, I can't even remember what team it was, took them right down to the wire and lost late in the game. So also keep an eye on Seaford in that Class 1A District 2, which looks like a very competitive district.
Absolutely. Again, this year going to be a lot of fun across all 3 classes. And of course, there's where your debut rankings for all 3, courtesy, of course, of 302 Sports. Guys, let's round out just an overall table discussion here in totality of these 3 classes. So what are you guys excited for the most, or what's a storyline or just something coming into the year, a certain class, maybe a future matchup? Just what excites you the most about coming into this season, Jason? What are you looking forward to?
I just think, in general, I just think this could be, one of the most competitive years.
Yeah.
Even in 3A or 2A where we have, a couple dominant teams, their schedules aren't always easy, and I'm just looking forward to it all. I just think the depth of the state is probably at an all-time high. I love the 3-class system because it gives, hope to the other schools that didn't have hope before. It brings out that whole – we mentioned, about 14 teams in Class 1A that all have a realistic chance. So I like that. I like this season. I think it's going to be very competitive from open to finish. And I'll just say that I think we have a great stream schedule lined up this year, a lot of great games on the schedule. So I'm looking forward to it.
Going to be a fun year, Mike. What are you looking forward to?
Well, I noticed when we were trying to put our schedule together that there are a lot more Saturday games this year. I think that may have to do with the referee shortage as much as anything, but that means there's more football that we get to go
That's
to.
right.
So I'm looking forward to some Saturday nights. Normally where we might be, I actually might be home, but I'd rather be in a stadium somewhere watching the game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And maybe I'll try to get to a few different places that I have not visited yet. So
There's still some places you haven't visited.
there's a couple, mostly downstate, but 1 or 2 up in Newcastle County that I still haven't seen. But we're gonna hit them all before we're done. So there's a couple of interesting storylines. I want to keep an eye on the whole ECHS storyline with them trying to play. They're playing Thursday, I believe, right, at DMA.
Yes.
We didn't even mention DMA. How's that? How weird is that? We got to a show without mentioning Delaware Military
They're in those
Academy.
rankings a little bit. You're right. Didn't expand on it.
Things like that. I want to see how AI progresses now that they're back in a second year of football. It's the kind of stuff that interests me, and I like to keep an eye on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I know not everybody likes it. I like Week 0. I think it's a great marketing tool if they used it right.
And Glenn shaking his head on the Zoom call, if you can see him on your screen. A big thumbs down from Glenn there.
It's
but
just not
you're
marketed.
entitled to your opinion,
It's
Mike.
just not marketed correctly. But I think there's so much potential there that maybe they get a tie-in with like Coke Zero or something. And then
Mike's doing the marketing for it already. He's already got the ideas flowing.
I like week 1 to week 11, and each
There you go.
team has a bye.
Glenn, you put together a fantastic Scream schedule. You'll be doing some great games this year as well for the crew. Talk a little bit about what you're looking forward to, maybe a specific game on that schedule or just some storylines in general.
Yeah, I hope we have a nice story coming out of the season like we had last year. Near the middle point of the year, typically when we were doing our weekly shows on Wednesday nights, we would feature the 3A teams or the 2A teams. Well, 1 week last year, we featured 1A, First State Military, and Early College High School because they were going to play each other that week. And we were going to stream that game. It would have been the first ever stream for either one of those two schools. And we had Coach Horstmeyer on from Early College. Him and his players were so excited, and so was First State Military. And then we never got to play that game because they ended up forfeiting a couple games at the end of the year. That was an unfortunate story, but hopefully we have something good coming out this year, and maybe it'll come out of 1A again. I'd like to be able to get out to some more 1A games because I think it's going to be very competitive. But looking forward to opening night in just a couple of nights. We'll be over at the home of the Ducks. We'll be on the pond for head coach Nick DeGotti, first-year head coach in his Odessa Ducks, taking on Freddie Johnson and the Lake Forest Spartans.
There you go. We've got the graphic for you on your screen. Glenn said it. Kicking off his season, coming at you Thursday at 7:30 with Lake Forest and Odessa. You can check that out live on the 302 Sports YouTube channel. Glenn will be on the call for that one. A fantastic matchup to get the season started, and that's one of two matchups because Benny Mitchell will have his crew ready to go downstate. Benny Mitchell on the call for Thursday at 7 o'clock as we'll have the Sussex Central Golden Knights taking on the Laurel Bulldogs. Of course, the state champs from 1A a few years ago. Sussex Central back in 2017, those state champs. They've been competitive every year. So Sussex Central and Laurel, of course, in Lake Forest and Odessa, kicking off action Thursday night in week 0. Of course, Glenn will be on the call as well as Benny Mitchell for 302 Sports. Jason and Mike, I'm sure you guys will be all over the place as well, or in attendance for one, if not a couple of those games. And guys, before we leave, there are some other matchups coming up this weekend that are pretty good as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it's a doubleheader Thursday at Abyssinia Stadium. You got Howard and Hodson at 3:30, and Sally's and Episcopal Academy follows. Two good games. Episcopal Academy always has a good program. They're going to be a tough week. I'm going to say one opponent for Salesiano. And also that Friday, Smyrna plays Downingtown there. And that's always good.
Downingtown, is it just which Downingtown?
No, I want to say it's Downingtown
West.
Oh, so I played Downingtown East back when I was with St. Mark's.
It's Downingtown West. And then Saturday, Dover and Troy. Troy's another good. So, I mean, if you can get out there and watch some of those games, because I think they're going to be very competitive.
That's right. Pat Devlin, I think, went to Downingtown East or West. I remember talking to him about that this past year over there at Delaware. But guys, I think we've been through it. All three classes. You have your debut rankings. It's going to be a fun year coming up for all of our fall sports, but especially on the football field for classes 1A, 2A, and 3A. For Glenn Frazer, Jason Winchell, Mike Lang, and myself, guys, appreciate you joining me today. Of course, all the action gets started on Thursday night. You can catch it on 302 Sports YouTube channel. It's here, guys. Football here in the First State. Special thanks to Dennis Pritchett for putting this all together and running the show for us here tonight. Well, that'll do it. We will see you on Thursday on 302 Sports.